FC Barcelona, Liverpool, Real Madrid, Chelsea, Bayern Munich, and Corinthians are football clubs that have all been crowned the best club in the world. And on February 4th, we saw the Seattle Sounders be the first MLS team to play in the FIFA Club World Cup. They fell short against Egyptian giants Al Ahly, courtesy of a late goal from Mohamed Magbi. No! And let me tell you how that match is going to change MLS forever. The beginning of the story dates back to 1966 when Major League Soccer was born. We saw an average attendance of around 15,000 fans for the first few years in the league. They had players like Eric Vinalda, Kobe Jones, Preki, Tony Maiola, Giovanni Savarese, and this guy. But in 2002, Major League Soccer was on the brink of extinction. But thanks to these certified beauties, Lamar Hunt, Robert Kraft, and Phil Onschwitz, they saved MLS by buying out all the clubs to give MLS one last shot. Well, 20 odd years later, you gotta say, I think they did a pretty good job. Fast forward to 2008 when the league announced the introduction of Seattle's MLS team, the Seattle Sounders. This was the beginning of something special for American soccer. The club brought in superstars Casey Keller, Freddie Ljungberg, or should I call him Freddie Fraudberg? Yes, I know. You all are probably wondering why I'm calling Freddie Ljungberg Freddie Fraudberg. He was an invincible with Arsenal, won countless titles in Europe, is a Swedish legend, but when he came to the Seattle Sounders, he was dog awful. And to add on top of that, apparently he was a massive diva and kind of thought he was better than everyone else with these stats. So Freddie Ljungberg, you are a fraud. And one of MLS most winning coaches, Siggy Schmidt. In 2009 came their first season in MLS, and the club averaged around 30,000 fans per match, which was an astonishing number for MLS standards at the time, and made it into the playoffs in their inaugural season, becoming the benchmark for all expansion teams. Winning many US Open Cups and a supporter shield, the club seemed to have it all, except for an MLS Cup. Then in 2016, everything changed when the club had their worst start to an MLS season, sacking the only head coach they ever had, Siggy Schmidt. The club went on to appoint assistant coach and Seattle native Brian Schmetzer, and this was the beginning where the flip switched for this club. The Sounders were able to continue their historic run of always making the playoffs that year, even with their incredibly poor start, to make it run all the way to their first MLS Cup final against Toronto FC in Toronto. I was fortunate enough to be able to attend this final, and my goodness, that shit was cold. To this day, that match is still marked as the 5th coldest game in MLS history. I couldn't feel my toes, I couldn't feel my limbs, and to put it frankly, the players play like they didn't have limbs in that match. Toronto FC was all over them for the 120 minutes, and thanks to the Great Wall of China himself, Stephen Fry, Toronto FC couldn't get through, and who can forget about his magical save against Josie Altidore. In the end, Seattle were able to shithouse their way to winning their first ever MLS Cup with 0 shots on target in the final.
You don't give a fuck. You don't give a damn.
You're goddamn right, brother.
But Cheyenne, why is this all so important? Let me explain. Because those moments are what helped build the Seattle Sounders character. All those losses in the playoffs to such great teams like the historic LA Galaxy teams of the early 2010s helped make this team cutthroat in the biggest moments. And it all came together last season being the first MLS team to win the CONCACAF Champions League. But we won't talk about what happened in the MLS season for them. I don't think the Seattle Sounders would be in the position they are in today if it wasn't for all those constant failures early on in the MLS Cup playoffs to becoming the serial killers and reaching 4 MLS Cup finals and winning 2 of them. Now, how has the Club World Cup changed MLS forever? MLS has always been known as the league where big name superstars come to retire, and I believe that narrative has begun to change. I think that the Seattle Sounders playing in the FIFA Club World Cup has changed people's perspectives on the league. Even though I know they lost the match, I think we have slowly seen MLS rise over the past few years with players being sold to Europe and competing more and more against Liga MX teams. Granted, they keep shoving down our throats these Liga MX versus MLS matches all the time, thanks to the All-Star Game, to the Leagues Cup, so it is bound to happen that an MLS team would win some of these matches because of how many there are now. But to go back to the topic on today's video, obviously the FIFA Club World Cup doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things, and if we're gonna be honest with ourselves, nobody really cares about the tournament outside of the teams that are involved in it. But if MLS wants to be respected, they need to be in the conversation of every single tournament they can be. Chances are the Seattle Sounders first round exit may seem insignificant on face value, but the fact that MLS was finally represented means MLS is making strides in the footballing world. But boys and girls, I'm so happy to be back on YouTube to see all your guys' lovely faces, so make sure to smash the like button on today's video, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and I hope you'll have a lovely day.